Hey everyone, Ashley Mailloux here with the Daily Racing Form. We're going to take a look at race number 7 this Sunday at Woodbine. It's the King Corrie, $100,000. It's for straight 3-year-olds going 7 furlongs on the synthetic. And looking at the fields as a whole, 8 have been entered, several exit stakes races from late last year, such as the Soar Free, the Display Stakes, as well as the Coronation Futurity. And a couple of horses here have starts in 2023. Some of the bigger names, maybe Wico, trained by Wesley Ward, was able to graduate at Turfway Park in late March and then came back to finish 4th at Keeneland on the turf. Some of these horses too disappointed in their last out. When I look at those horses, Dream Jareen, Keen Flatter, as well as Soar Free, all exit stakes races that are looking to improve now as newly turned 3-year-olds. But let's dive right into it here with the number 1, Dream Jareen. This one trained by Kevin Attard, a 3-year-old son of a Stern who was able to win on debut. Now, I know the Beyer speed figure wasn't flashy. I did think it was a good performance, though, and kind of a perfectly timed ride, to say the least. And then we'll actually take a look at this one's second career start. That was in the Coronation Futurity, and a couple things I wanted to focus in on. When you see this horse was drawn towards the inside post 1 and ends up having to check pretty early in this race, kind of in or entering or in that first turn, going a mile and an eighth, and I think it certainly hurt his chances. I always want to watch the replay to see what happens. I thought Dream Jareen really had to steady there, and from there, when you pick it back up in the stretch, I know this horse ends up finishing 7th. It was a big field of 14, but this horse showed some really nice interest late, and for me, I'm willing to kind of, make some excuses for that most recent outing. Now, we haven't seen this one since November, but seems to be training very well. Most recently on the training track at Woodbine. Prior to that, though, you can see a couple drills back, a bullet drill, some really snappy workouts. So I'm really curious to see how Dream Jareen will do fresh off the layoff. I think this horse could have a really big 3-year-old campaign. The number 2, Classic Dancer, this one trained by Mark Casse. Didn't show much at the fairgrounds in those first two career starts, earlier this year. And maybe there's some reasons for that. Maybe it's the dirt. Maybe it was going long on the turf. But looking at that most recent performance, this horse was able to win at that maiden optional level, was in for the $40,000 tag, was able to take them gate to wire. A second start for that one, also wearing blinkers. And maybe this horse just needed a little bit more time to get rolling. Declan Carroll has the mount, was aboard this one for that graduation score. And look at the Beyer speed figure. It's at 84. You start to look at others in here. That's one of the best numbers in the field. I just think some of these other horses maybe have an experience edge or already have a touch of experience in stakes competition. The number 3, Keen Flatter. This one's trained by Josie Carroll. Disappointed in the Display Stakes late last year. I watched the replay. I just think this horse came up empty. Has been off since then and has a slew of workouts up at Woodbine. We'll take a look at this one's second to last race. You can see allowance optional claiming race, going 6 furlongs up at Woodbine. And in terms of trip here, this horse drew to the inside, and I just loved the way that this horse was able to kick on in the stretch. To me, this is a horse that's going to sit the trip maybe just off the pace and make a late run. And when you look at this one, I was impressed with what I saw. So Keen Flatter is a horse certainly, consider in here when you start to also look at others in the field. Only 2 horses have multiple wins, and Keen Flatter is one of those runners. The number 4, One for Chap. This one trained by Mark Casse. Was 3rd on debut on the turf. Then in that second outing, was able to take them gate to wire under Rafael Hernandez, who's going to climb back aboard. Most recently, we saw this one back in August up at Woodbine in the Soar Free, and didn't take any respect in there. Was slightly favored in the graduation score 2 back. Didn't take a lot of respect last time out. And to me, this horse just didn't show anything. So the big question will be, how can this horse take its form from the turf and move it over to the synthetic? But I have to say, looking at the workouts and knowing Mark Casse and the work that he does, really think it should be a pretty easy move for this son of Ransom the Moon. The number 5, Wico. I mentioned this one when I looked at the field. This one's trained by Wesley Ward, who has done well so far at the meet from a limited number of starties. He's had a tremendous year. These are the numbers that kind of Wesley typically fires at. And this horse, I will say, took a little while to graduate. You look down in those races, this horse at Keeneland debuted in April of 2022, going 5.5, choked in the stretch and surrendered to finish 3rd. And then prior starts, they tried to take this horse from off of it at several venues, and this horse just was able to pick up minor shares at best. But 2 starts back at Turfway Park, going a mile, this horse was forwardly placed and was able to battle it down in the stretch to win. But we'll take a look at his most recent race at Keeneland back on April 28th. This is an allowance event. I'm just going to pick it up here and look at his stretch run from him. He split the field early on. I thought he showed a touch of greenish just looking at his leads and things like that in the stretch. And just to look how, Johnny V is able to ride him here. He finishes 4th in this field of 12. He misses by just under 3 lengths. Looking at the top 3, we haven't seen them since they, just raced just a couple weeks ago. But I thought it was a decent performance. His last 2 have both been at a mile, and I do like that he's going to cut back slightly to 7/8, and I also like that he's going to get back onto a synthetic surface, just knowing that he was able to really perform quite nicely at Turfway Park. Yes, they're different synthetic surfaces, but I still think it might be the right move for him. Kazushi Kimura has the mount. He's never been aboard him so far in his career. The number 6, Stay On Our Good Side, another one trained by Mark Casse, was able to graduate on debut back in May of 2022, going 4.5, was a runaway winner. And since then, a little inconsistent in form. To me, I hate to use this phrase, but has that good race, bad race syndrome. Comes in here off a 3rd place finish in the Woodstock back on April 30th, so just 3 weeks rest for him. I certainly think he could have probably used the race, and it wasn't like he tried lesser competition. He still went on a stake to start it off. A compact field of 6, though, won by New York Thunder. Beaten by 9 1/4, but the winner was simply much the best. Prior to that, this horse's probably best effort last year would have been in the Cup and Saucer, finishing 2nd, just missed by 3/4 of a length. I thought it was a really good run from off the pace. And in terms of tactics, I would say he's probably going to be closing from off of it, just looking at his most recent efforts. Early on in his career, he's a bit more eager, but they seem like they've been able to get him to kind of relax early on and make one late run. The number 7, Velociter. This is a 3-time winner in the field, the lone 3-time winner. He's yet to finish out of the money so far. A son of More Spirit, who is also trained by Kevin Attard, and actually has been able to rattle off back-to-back wins. Now, we haven't seen him since November. It's not unusual, but he picked up his 2nd career win, and then they jumped him up in the Coronation Futurity. And I thought it was a gritty performance, knowing that he was stretching from 6 furlongs, which was at that point in his career the furthest he had gone, to 1 1/8 miles. And he was able to take them in gate-to-wire fashion. And he needed to work in the stretch to get the job done, but he was able to do so. So I think that's a pretty big performance. His Beyers, though, a little light in this last couple. I'm not really going to read into that, though. And then rounding out the field, the number 8, Twin City. He just came up a bit short in the Coronation Futurity. He had to settle for 2nd. In terms of trips, he had to pass about half the field late in the race and was able to do so. A very consistent type who I think he has a bit of versatility, because when you look at some of his races, whether they were going 1 turn or 2 turns, he's been able to be forwardly placed. He's been able to come from off of it. He does draw to the outside in this race, which I do think is a little intriguing for him, because he can be forwardly placed if he wants to, but I still think maybe he'll have a couple of horses in front of him early on, and we'll try to make one late move in the stretch. So that's the field of 8 in this year's edition of the King Corrie. And looking at the field, I give a slight nod to the number 5, Wico, for Wesley Ward. I just think this horse was pretty impressive at Turfway Park on their synthetic surface, and I thought, looking at that most recent race and looking at the replay, I think it was a pretty good performance all in all. So I think he's going to step up. He's just making his 3rd start off the layoff as well. And Wesley Ward, 4 for 7 in terms of in the money so far at the meet. From there, I really think the one, Dream, watching that replay last out, I'm really intrigued by this horse. I think this horse has a ton of upside, might be getting good at the right time and from a limited number of starts. And I say might be getting good at the right time. I just think the workouts are intriguing to me. And coming off such a rough trip, I just wonder kind of what's really going to be this horse's running style, and have we, seen what he has to offer yet? I don't think so. I think he's got some potential that we could see maybe unleashed here in the King Corrie. And then I settled on the 7, Velociter, and the 8, Twin City. Both very impressive in the Coronation Futurity. They did it differently, though. And I think Velociter could be part of the early pace scenario in here, and the 8, Twin City, might get a good trip just from off of it. But for me, top 2 in here, the number 5, Wico, and the 1, Dream. Good luck.